information lest the Supreme Court step in and change their precedent for the past several decades. So there's no reason that any of these potentially susceptible whistleblowers that do fear legal ramifications for those activities couldn't come into Congress, quiet meeting, share what they have with these Congress people, and allow them to then run with that information clearly away from any personal identification from that whistleblower. That's the world we live in now, right? We don't have whistleblowers doing that, and I think some of the messaging has been inaccurate, claiming that we need to have stronger whistleblower protection laws, because it's probably not going to happen. I don't think Trump wants stronger whistleblower protections. I don't think he wants to enable people that would be calling out actions of the executive branch to Congress strengthened. That's not necessarily aligned with some of the activities that happened with Colonel Vindman and the Ukraine incident, where he essentially utilized those whistleblower laws to share information with Congress about what they perceived as wrongdoings. Right? So I don't see those laws getting stronger, but we're in this kind of weird false dichotomy right now where people are asking for them and not willing to come forward. But ultimately, I think we just need someone to step up to the plate and come forward to Congress with this information, be able to move the conversation forward on the disclosure side. Right?
So what you're saying to me, what it sounds like, is like you're almost like advocating for a complete restructuring of how that information gets disclosed. Instead of the way they're doing it now, like someone come in and sort it out. Like you. Why don't you do it?
I would, if I was asked.
I bet you'd be asked. I hope you'll be asked, I should say. Because I think you're uniquely qualified and obviously like very invested in this. Like you wouldn't want someone who's not invested in this leading this. This is a super complicated, nuanced rabbit hole that you have to go down, and you have to like be balancing out all the possibilities in your head at the same time while you're trying to get this information out. And whatever you guys experienced, whatever those things were, if that isn't ours, we should probably know. We should probably know. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is ours. I get that if it is, you can't tell me. I get that. But if it's not, what's going on? What do you think it is? Like, if you had to guess, some of it's got to be ours, right?
In like the broader conversation, or specifically New Jersey?
Well, broader conversation.
Yeah. It's clear to me, based off of all my research and connections and conversations, a couple things. One, people are absolutely seeing things that seem to be exhibiting capabilities beyond state of the art. Like the minute of conversation, right?
This one that you said.
I mean, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, multiple witnesses seeing capabilities of craft operating flight regimes that we don't have the technology to do. So that's step one. Step two is I've been a lot like a blind man touching an elephant. I don't know necessarily it's an elephant yet, but I'm feeling a tail, I'm feeling a trunk, I'm feeling the foot. And what that elephant represents is the government's classified work on this topic. Right? I've butted up against it through people that have been actively engaged in programs that are investigating this in ways that are not public. So I know that there is something there behind the scenes. I don't know how deep it goes. I don't know specifically the type of, like, the total amount of work that's being done. It's very clear to me that there are boundaries that I've touched, others have touched, that represent that work. So it would make sense, it would be a line that the government would be very interested in this technology. And I think it's time that we put the proper protocols and processes in place so that the public can discover this information. We have the technology, Joe. Like, it's not that we don't have the technology. I mean, I'm personally working on space situational awareness sensors that we could put in space in order to maintain custody of these objects.
Now, if no one has ever gone full disclosure, no president, how much do you think they tell them? And what, if anything, could you even imagine would be a valid reason for not telling people?
I think that there was probably a presidential order at some point in the past that is likely still in effect. And, unless another president is fully read in and countermands that order, then it's business as usual. And perhaps that's one of the reasons they don't tell presidents a lot of information on this, is because they want to maintain that effective authority to keep it in play so that another president doesn't countermand it.
Yeah, because none of them spill the beans. None of them feel obligated to tell the American public. You know, I think I can see both ways though. That's the problem. I can see it from a point of a national security thing. If they're back engineering these things and trying to, if there's a race, it's essentially no different than if we engineered ourselves. At the end, someone's making it.
And we might have integrated some of these capabilities into some of our technology that we might look out the window and see, right? But deep in the bowels of the system, you know, there might be capabilities that were discovered or motivated through the investigation of these objects, right? So I could see why I agree with you 100%, right? And I don't believe that 100% information should come out. You know, I mean, I've worked in secure information, I've worked in the military, I understand the need for these capabilities, but the core information, no, we're not alone in the universe potentially. There's no government on earth that has the right to have that information.
Agreed. I think everybody agrees to that. There's no reason why they should. That's human information, and it's if we're really confronted by an absolute fact that changes everything, we kind of know it. We're not sure. We haven't seen it. And if you have seen it, what is that?
Think about how that would motivate us as a populace, right?
Oh, yeah.
To have this carrot on a stick out to say, here's how we access the rest of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine what that would do to our technological innovation. How many millions of kids right now go to school in order to be engineers, scientists, to be able to work on this? It would completely change the world. Maybe we'd have, you know, less Facebook apps and things of that nature and AI wrappers, but we would be working on deep, important technology that's going to unlock the rest of the universe to us.
Or would give in to our feelings. Because they're coming and they're going to be super powerful. And every civilization that we've ever encountered that was primitive always had a terrible go of it once we showed up.
Well, maybe we'd be better prepared.
Well, I would hope they wouldn't be us. That they would be past. Well, look, human beings today, as you know, especially if you follow like Stephen Pinker's work, like crime and violence throughout history, human beings today live in the safest environment that's ever existed for people, relatively overall, despite all of our problems. It's trending in a way of more peace. But if you think about no violence at all, none ever, just like a complete shut off of everything. That's what you would have to be if you were a civilization that's eclipsing all the problems that we have here on Earth, that's bypassing all the war, all the bullshit, the destroying the environment, the inequality in the allocation of resources and the control of the populace. That's all out the window with this super, super sophisticated society. I think that should motivate us, like probably more than anything, to get our shit together, to realize like, well, this is possible. Like this is the trajectory that these intelligent species go through on their road to evolution, their road to enlightenment, and they bypass this terrible stage that we're at right now. We're worried that these drones are searching for nuclear bombs because someone might decide to do some sort of a terrorist thing because, you know, there's wars going on over the world. If we could just know that you can get past that.
It's like we're in a phase where our technological development is outpacing our social and moral development.
Or in our biological development.
Yeah.
Just like you can only think of so many number of so many things. You can't think of all the stars. I don't think our biology can keep up with the input of all this technology. I think we're getting numb. We're getting weirdly numb to it, you know? And I think it's just so inescapable in today's society that if you want to be integrated into today's society, you have to have one of those goddamn phones. You have to be connected. Like we're moving in this very particular direction, and it seems like if we get through this chaos, what these things that are visiting us, all of the things that people describe of telekinetic communication, telepathic communication, the ability to explain things to them in a way that like clarifies what they're here for and why they're here, that's probably what we would do. It sounds exactly like what we would do if we could get past all the problems of being a human being in 2024 and all the violence and chaos and all the lying and propaganda, if we got past that, that's what we'd become. We'd become some star-faring creature that's like completely enlightened and shows up and is just checking on the apes to make sure they don't blow themselves up.
It must be a hell of a time to come watch us, right?
Right. And if think about like technology and technology evolution is always so much faster than biological evolution. Like, how far ahead are they? You know, if they're 1 million years, what does that even look like?
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like?
Do you hit a wall? Like, do they just quote unquote know everything, right?
Right.
Or and then maybe that's what allows their moral compass and their biology to catch up,
Or maybe they're the robot custodians of the God-creating intelligent beings, and that all they're doing is sent for AI. AI created them and sent them out into the universe so that when the apes get to the point where they start making nuclear weapons and bombs and reactors and cold fusion and gravity, you like just make sure they get through this. Okay, boom, and then whatever the fuck quantum computing connected to AI becomes. That's what it's like. We're farming that.
That's something I thought about, you know, when talk about biological creatures in these crafts.
Yeah.
You know, it could be that those are not things that traveled here from far away and are just kind of hanging out, right? Like, that might have
They're
just
here
been
all the time.
They might have created these objects, even the biological substrates, if you will, here using local materials and put them together because perhaps biological creatures are more appropriate for the type of interactions they need to do instead of a fixed machine, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that completely makes sense, right? Like, if you can create life, which they're very close to being able to create fake artificial life, like in like single cell forms, and haven't they created like, aren't they like creating like artificial embryos? I believe they have started to create like animal embryos.
And that's just from scratch. I mean, they could beam over, you know, DNA sequences and
Yeah.
fabricate them here.
Yeah, but that seems like totally doable, and that would make sense that they can breathe our air too. You just engineer it so that whatever this creature is, it does your bidding. And just they're the custodians. They just hang around. They're not even like advanced aliens. Synthetic human embryos created in groundbreaking advance. This is so crazy. These are human. I didn't think they were human. Synthetic human embryos using stem cells in a groundbreaking advance that sidesteps the need for eggs or sperm. Oh, it's over.
We're fucked, yeah.
We're fucked. We're so fucked. I'm so anxious. So scary, man. It's so scary. So if we can do that now, something that's 1 million years more advanced would just like probably send some ball of energy down. That energy would create a spaceship and the beings inside of it. And, like they're fucking sending someone a picture through a cell phone. It'd be that simple.
Yeah.
And that's probably, I mean, it's probably what it is. They're probably the custodians. You know, we think of them as like advanced alien beings. It's probably not real. Probably advanced alien beings is AI, and it's the most advanced because it just goes from nothing to God, and maybe it needs custodians.
The only thing that would change my mind on that is if they did truly have some kind of faster light travel that allowed them to transport, you know, physical objects from extreme distances to nearby, right? And then, because then the cost of sending that information is irrelevant. Because they can just send things over. So, you know, I can see both sides of it, but it's something interesting to think about. You know, I mean, imagine the science and technology fields that a full understanding of this conversation would open up. I mean, it would open up fields of knowledge that we can only imagine right now. We only see in sci-fi movies.
Right, even if we don't understand how they're doing it, if proven to be true, everybody has to stop and go, okay, what's going on here? Like, how is that thing moving that quickly? Like, where's it coming from? How did it come from 2,000 light years away? Like, how is it even possible? And then they have to figure it out. And how? I don't know. I mean, maybe, what is your take on the crashes? Because that to me is always like, God, if you're so advanced, you can come here from another galaxy, why do you fuckers keep crashing? Like, what is it? And then there's, I'm sure you're aware of Diana Pasolco and stuff like that. They call them donations. Like, the people that research these things, whether or not it's even real, but the people that, I haven't seen it, the people that say they go there and find these fragments on the ground, they refer to it as donations.
One thing I like to think about is, you know, their planet, you know, make a lot of assumptions here, but their planet might be designed a different way, right? Like their atmosphere might have significantly less oxygen. It could be much thicker. And so they might have bypassed this whole period where they had rocket propulsions, gas shooting out the back. So they might have taken them longer to get to space, but maybe they did so with a much more developed technology. So then they apply that technology, they come over here, and now they're in a regime that perhaps they were unexpecting. There's, you know, gravity disturbances, there's, you know, more oxygen in the air, there's different things that perhaps they either weren't expecting or just was different than their home environment. And then, oh, by the way, there's these stupid apes that are shining stuff at us, that are launching nuclear weapons and actually knocking us out of the sky. There's electromagnetic interference. So I could see a logic there that shows that, you know, we make the assumption that if they're here, they're gods, right? They can do anything. Right. Maybe that's not the right way to think about it.
Well, also maybe think about the sheer numbers. So if we think that these things are real, so let's imagine they're actually coming from another planet. So if they are coming from another planet and they're capable of coming here, that means other planets are capable of sustaining intelligent life that can be starfarers. So if that's possible here and there, it's probably all over the place. So if it's all over the place, who knows how many numbers of things you're dealing with and how far advanced they are. And like you said, like what technology did they develop? We always think technology is like completely linear, and we think that like what we did and the way we did is the only way it can be done. Yeah. But the best evidence that's not true is Egypt. The best evidence that that's not true exists. You can go touch it with your hand. You can see photographs of it online. We don't know what the fuck they did. And whatever they did was super advanced for 4,500 years ago. We don't know what machines they used. We don't know how they cut it. We don't know how they measured it. We don't know shit. How they figured out to put it north, south, east, and west almost perfectly. No one knows. No one understands how they got the stones there. It's all speculation and guesswork. But whatever it is, it's insanely impressive and a different sort of way of implementing human ingenuity and engineering and thought into construction. It's very different than anything we've done. So it's a clear path. Like, they had an enormous amount of resources in that area, and they had sustained a civilization there for thousands and thousands of years, to the point there they had developed methods and technologies that we don't understand today because they're not here anymore.
I love the work that Graham Hancock has been doing, and I see it as almost like a parallel conversation, the one we're having.
Yes.
I mean, there's something here. A lot of people can go out and look at it. I mean, sure, I've never been in the pyramids, but, you know, the information is there if you're willing to go look at it. And there's this massive stigma within the academic community to say, no, that's not right? Because they're in this zero-sum game. They're all trying to win the next, you know, contract and grant, and they just want to stay right within the line of what's acceptable. And he's bringing forward very interesting points about a time period that I think we all understand now is a lot less understood than we thought.
There's also parallel civilizations that coexisted with European civilizations that are very similar to what we know about in history, that were like the Mayans, for instance. Like, what the fuck was going on in Mexico? Like, how come? Because we know when that was, like, they're like when Cortez visited. Was it Cortez or Cabeza de Vaca? Who visited the Mayans and wrote about it? It might have been Cabeza de Vaca. I think it's in that the book A Strange New Land. But when they first encountered these people, before they gave them diseases, like, they had this insane civilization with like gold headdresses and ornate dressing, like, and everybody's like, what is this? Like, there's insane stone structures and this human sacrifice. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing here? Like, this is a totally, completely different type of civilization. Yeah. While in Europe, they're wearing fucking wigs and they're trotting around and, like, all coexisting. So we know that human beings can go in very different directions in terms of the way their society develops and the technologies they implement. Why wouldn't we think that that would be the case with everything in the known universe? Like, everything in the known universe, there's probably an infinite number of paths that intelligent creatures can go to creating technology. And like you're saying, some of them might take like way longer than our path of, you know, implementing combustion engines and electronics. And they might be using frequencies. They might be using some sort of different way of generating energy that we don't understand.
Maybe their planet has super strong electromagnetic fields, right? And so they can leverage that in a way we can't.
Well, the thing Lazar was talking about was that this planet had a stable version of this element 115. But I think, I mean, even, what does that even mean? What is element 115? If there's 114, element 115 is whatever the fuck you find next, right? If you don't know what it is. Like and it was all theoretical until the Large Hadron Collider, they developed a version of it for, you know, a millisecond, so they know that it's a real thing. He's saying they have a stable version. I'm like, well, if you live in a completely different solar system and a completely different planet with completely different, there's planets out there that are made entirely of diamonds.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Found a giant diamond in the sky. Get a picture of that, please.
Like.
Yeah, what the fuck? Like, I think that there's probably an infinite number of ways intelligent life evolves, and some of it probably doesn't make anything like us. Like octopi. Like octopuses, they have no need, because they're in the ocean and there's no houses in the ocean, so they have no need to like build things, but they're super smart, man. They open up jars. They figure out a way to get out of a fish tank, walk across the floor, climb into the next fish tank, kill a fish, eat it, climb back, and go back in their tank.
That's why I don't own a squid or an octopus, because if I saw that in the middle of the night, it would freak me the fuck out.
They're really smart, man. They're weirdly smart, and we don't even know why or how, you know?
Yeah.
They have eyes that separated from, I mean, like, whatever an eye was developed for them, and an eye was developed for us. Like, and we branched off from the evolutionary chain, like, who knows how many hundreds of millions of years ago.
I learned a pretty interesting little tidbit here. You know, I mean, the octopus, apparently its DNA is not like anything else on this planet, but apparently the Hawaiians have a ancient tradition that octopus basically came from the sky. Isn't it interesting?
That is interesting, but, you know, with panspermia, they do think that it's possible that planets, when they get hit by asteroids, a big chunk of it can fly off, and the DNA from that rock can enter into this new environment. And with some things like spores survive in a vacuum. That's one of the thoughts about psilocybin mushrooms, that perhaps they arrived here from somewhere else on a rock, which is, it's a real possibility. Like, that's where most of the iridium that they find when they do those big digs and they find that layer of iridium that's near where there's an asteroid impact, that's all just shit that came from space.
Yeah. I mean, if you look back at like the evolution of humans to monkeys to, you know, fish, and then, you know, multicellular organisms, and the introduction of the mitochondria, smaller single cell organisms, there's a very linear path of evolution. And very early on, there's a massive jump where we went from extremely simple bits and pieces to essentially this big jump in complexity for these small systems. And there's a theory out there that jump occurred due to seeding from elsewhere, right? That perhaps that the whole path is linear, and it occurred over time, perhaps they think the time period is like several billion years, right, for the evolution from these components to get to essentially a single cell organism. That these components evolved independently in space, perhaps feeding off of gamma radiation or of other gamma energy or other energies that are out in space. And so that evolutionary process did take billions of years. It just didn't occur on a particular planet. And then over time, as meteorites hit the Earth, then we see this uptake in complexity because of the arrival, and then the further evolution of the biological, you know, chain that led to us. And, you know, it's pretty interesting, you know, kind of tied to that theory is that, you know, the Big Bang happened and things, you know, gradually cooled down. I mean, there was a point where, and I think the number is like 500,000 years, where the universe was essentially room temperature, right? Like, everywhere in the universe had like a distribution of temperature that was equivalent to what we're sitting in right now before it continued to cool off and get weird. So there could have been these opportunities in the process that allowed for the development of lifelike components that eventually went out to seed the universe, which would be a really interesting concept, because it would lead us to believe that this probably happened in multiple places, not just here.
That is a fascinating idea, that it's like seeds. And I mean, that's the function that these asteroids have. When that's what happens when they land and they spread whatever's on them. You could imagine, like, that's the function of asteroids, slamming into planets, knocking chunks off, and flying that stuff into space.
That's why we have water here, you know? I mean, we didn't just organically, like, create water on this planet came from asteroids and other debris.
It's a comet, right? Like
Comets, yep.
Yeah. A lot of comets are just made up of just ice, right?
Yeah.
Which is fucking nuts. There's a chunk of ice bigger than Manhattan flying through the sky.
Imagine. Or a diamond.
It leaves it, right, and leaving trails. And some of them they can mine. Like that's going to be really fascinating once they figure out how to do that. Land on an asteroid and mine it.
Yeah. $1 trillion industry.
That was a Bruce Willis movie, right? Wasn't it?
Well, I think they're trying to blow one up.
I think it was. It was a Bruce
They sent
Willis
miners
movie.
there.
Armageddon.
Yeah.
All right, they weren't mining, right?
They trained miners how to be astronaut because that was clearly the easiest choice. Instead of
Right.
training astronauts to mine.
Well, we were getting to that. The James Webb Telescope Secrets World meeting. Did you find anything on that? Nothing?
Nothing specific that I was supposed to be looking for.
Okay, let's try it. Let's say James Webb Telescope top secret meeting, urgent discovery.
I've had everything that I have.
Give me the bullshit. Give me like the stuff that's shady.
There was a congressman that had a classified meeting about the James Webb.
Yeah.
This thing, they have many discoveries. I don't know.
Oh no, not discovery. Top secret
Classified.
meeting discovery. Come on, Jamie, indulge me.
You know,
We
we
don't usually put classified stuff out there.
Yeah, do it. Put it out there.
NASA denies existence of classified briefings on James. This is 2 months ago. So Reddit
Oh, so they
posts.
definitely happened.
Yeah.
Definitely happened. If they didn't. It's probably bullshit. It's probably a fun thing. NASA denies it. In recent weeks, rumors spread rapidly on social media. I think I was involved in that, suggesting that NASA's James Webb Telescope had made an extraordinary discovery, potentially alien life, and the members of Congress had been briefed about it. The rumors intensified after U.S. Representative Andre Carson, who had previously chaired a congressional hearing on unidentified aerial phenomena, declined to answer a question about classified briefings when asked by, I don't know who that is, run by journalist Matt Laszlo on X. Laszlo on X.
He's been doing good work on the UAP topic.
Matt Laszlo?
Yeah.
Shout out to Matt. Speculation prompted Freedom of Information Act request filled by the Black Ball on September 22nd, 2024, seeking any records, classified or unclassified, about James Webb Space Telescope briefings provided to Congress, particularly related to the telescope's findings. The request aimed to clarify whether any congressional briefings had been held about significant discoveries made by the telescope, which has been in operation since 2021. So the response was: copy of records, which includes videos, photos, electronic or otherwise, of all briefings about James Webb's telescope and program made for Congress. I asked that you include all classified and unclassified briefings on the James Webb Telescope program or briefings on findings made by that program. It says those searches located no records responsive to your request. Neither confirm nor deny. I mean, if I was hiding the fact we're going to get hit by an asteroid, that's how I would do it. I wouldn't tell people. I wouldn't respond to this feed. What freedom of information? What are you going to put me in jail? We're going to be dead in 16 months. There's a planet heading our way. You know, planets get hit by other planets sometimes.
Or maybe they detected signs of life around an exoplanet.
That's the fun one.
Yeah.
The fun one is signs of life. The fun one is an actual spaceship. The fun one is something that they can't explain that changes everything that we hold dear and believe to be true. Whatever that means.
You know, we've gone down the rabbit hole with some fun speculative conversation about what's out in space, but I just want to make the point that, like, this is still a solvable problem here on planet Earth, right? Like, we can't let, like, the fun speculation of what's going on out in the universe stop these kind of stodgy academics and others to say, well, this is not relevant to me, this is not practical, there's nothing here, right? Like, we need intense focus on this within our government at the highest levels, not just within an organization with the Pentagon. And we need to engage our scientific and academic community and remove the stigma at the highest levels. I'm hoping Trump will do that.
You think the bottleneck has been the security clearance of it all, or the bottleneck has been the lack of transparency? Like, if people just knew, that would be the end of it.
I think so. I think that would absolutely, and of course, by people knowing, they're going to want to have some evidence that they can use to do research on. But even if the president just came out the other day, or the next week, or in a few months, and said, "We don't know what they are. We have moderate to high confidence that they don't originate through any known adversary or nation on Earth. Help us figure this out."
But Biden and Harris have been like the last managers of Blockbuster Video. You know what I mean? They knew the fucking gig was up. Like, don't even show up. It's over. The building's going under. The lease is done in 2 weeks. Fuck this.
I understand.
They're not even at work.
I understand it's a policy of the Biden administration to downplay this topic at the highest levels.
You understand that this is like a mandate? This is something...
I don't know if I want to use the word mandate, but their policy...
This is their instructions?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I think with the folks that are friendly to this topic coming in with the Trump administration open up a very key opportunity window for us to move this conversation forward.
When you look at it from their perspective, what would rationalize trying to downplay this? But if you look at it from their perspective, like, what could possibly be the case where they think it would be good to propagandize or sway people in that direction?
To stop our adversaries being aware of the reality situation and from investing into it and proceeding past, because again, we're artificially constraining ourselves, right? Because we're trying to keep it secret.
Right.
So now that game is changing, right? That game is changing because it appears that China is making investments and has a large amount of interest in this topic. And we're at a point now where if we continue to do that, we're going to simply fall behind. And I think there's been this delay within Biden administration to just kind of ignore that problem for the next, for whatever problem is more relevant. He's probably more, worried about his son and the legal issues he's in than this massive issue. I
don't think he's running anything. I really do think he's the last manager of Blockbuster right now. That's what I think. I don't. She's not even showing up for it. I never see her anywhere anymore. It's unfortunate. They checked out. It's over. Yeah. But the problem with that is, okay, then who's running it? Why are you holding back that stuff?
Whoever's been running it, I think.
Yeah.
So I think this is. I mean, can you imagine how President Trump would be remembered across history if he moved this conversation forward?
Yeah. If we just knew what they know. Just, you don't have to tell us what's possible, what it can do, what you've engineered from it. Tell us something's going on. What is that thing? What's that thing that's going on? Is that thing ours? If it is, that's fucking crazy. You guys have been holding back some insane shit. And if it's not ours, then we need to know. And I think that would change the human conversation. I mean, Ronald Reagan talked about that in the United Nations speech in, like, was it the 1980s? Yeah. Do you remember that speech?
Well,
see if you can find that.
I remember learning about it.
He talked about how united we would all be if the threat of an alien invasion was happening on Earth, how quickly we would put aside our differences.
Well, that's why we have the red phone with Russia, right?
Is it really red? Is it really red?
Yeah, it used to be. I'm sure it's a text message now.
I wonder if they even have a phone anymore.
Well, they do, and they do with China as well now. Although it's less.
But isn't it like a phone? Like, hello.
I also don't know the structure of it. It used to be, but it was there in order to.
Just hear this.
All the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of it? 2 centuries ago, in a hall much smaller than this one, in Philadelphia, Americans met to draft
hell of a speech.
Maybe it's time for another one.
Yeah. If they know if we did have disclosure, like, what can you imagine? Let's imagine that you get into this position and it's your job to get this information out to the public. What kind of resistance do you think you're going to face? Because it seems like if there's been deals that have been done with defense contractors, and like, that's how you kind of have to have work on it, right? Like, who else is going to know what to do? Like, you kind of have to get contractors on this thing. You're going to have to get the best and the brightest. You got a fucking UFO. I figure this out.
We haven't had support from the top in the past, right? So were I in such a position, you would have to be working closely with the White House, and you would have to have the White House's buy-in on this. I think that's the only way. And from the top of the executive branch, you use that position of influence, you pass additional, presidential memorandums and executive orders that countermand previous memorandums that may have existed in the past in order to legally compel these organizations from the chief executive to be able to move the conversation forward, to require them to bring this information out, to require them to collaborate. And, it doesn't have to be a one-person job. You bring in some of the brightest people in our country in order to evaluate this data, come to a conclusion, and then share those conclusions with the American people.
Okay, let's imagine you get this position and you go through this search and you find out that this is all our technology, and that we can't allow China or Russia to know that we're capable of using these kind of technologies that are unheard of right now. So we have to keep it as a national security secret. What do you do about that? Something like that.
I mean, ultimately, if the answer is that there is nothing unusual going on here, then we have to respect that, right? I mean,
it is very unusual.
Well,
if you've got these things that are moving the way these things are moving in their arms.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the case here, for all the reasons that we've discussed today. So, ultimately, it's about finding the truth, right? It's not about finding your way to a conclusion that you already support.
I wonder what the world would be like if it was fully accepted, if disclosure was fully accepted. I wonder what the world would be like if, Trump gets in office, Trump has a press conference, brings you up, you explain what we know. This is over the last 16 months, our team has discovered this, that, and that. We've personally investigated this, that, and the other. Where are the crash bombs? Where the fuck are you guys hiding those? Because if that's real, that's the end.
Yeah.
All you have to do is bring the president to the crash site, and you bring him into the warehouse, and you show him this thing, and you walk around, and you go, "What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this?" That would be the end. All you'd have to do is get a camera crew, go with them. Trump walking around spaceship. Okay, we've been visited. Now we know. By whatever, by whoever. Maybe it's not even a visitor. Maybe it's always been here. Maybe it lives in the ocean. Maybe it's been monitoring us from there, and its sole purpose is, like I said before, custodian, to make sure we don't blow ourselves up. But either way, we should probably know that. We should probably know there's fucking bases in the ocean. Because a lot of them, they've seen their transmedium. They move through the air, and then they go into the water, and they make a splash. It's like, okay, what is that?
We would have, for the first time, I think, a clear direction of where we need to go as a society. It would revamp our academic processes, our fields of study, our beliefs in religious structures. I don't think they would nullify it. I think they would probably amplify it. And it would, I think, have the equivalent impact of a positive nuclear bomb on our economy. We would have certainty in what direction to invest in and what technologies to pursue. And I think that by having that direction, that would, again, nuclear bomb level increase in capabilities, where we would be able to be working on propulsion and energy systems and material systems that would advance us well beyond where we are today, with leapfrog us. And if we sit on our hands, we don't do that, we're going to find our adversaries in a position to do that instead, which would completely rewrite the geopolitical environment.
If we reach technological proficiency in all this AI stuff and quantum computing, if we reach this first, then what do you think that looks like?
I think, well, we already are in AI to some degree, but I don't think it's a technology you can necessarily contain to one country. I mean, China's already has their own AI out there. So I think it's going to be somewhat business as usual, at least on the AI side. Quantum computing, a little bit different. The technology investment is much higher, but still, if China can come in and potentially steal that technology and replicate it, then we're just in another level of arms race at that point. But if we have the ability to invest in deep technologies that we are aware have an endpoint in reality, instead of having to guess the strategic value of something, it's going to allow us to focus our resources in a way that we haven't had the opportunity to do in this country.
That's great rose-colored glasses. That sounds really good. It does. When you say it that way, I'm like, wow, it's a very positive outlook. I hope you're right.
What do you think?
I don't know. You know, I definitely don't know. I go back and forth a lot. I go back and forth as to whether or not these are visitors or whether or not they're interdimensional. They're always here. I go back and forth whether or not they're ours. I think some of them are ours, probably. I go back and forth to Lazar's talk about how they had been doing flights with these things. They'd figured out how to at least get them off the ground and move them around the sky and have them land again. If that was going on, if that's real, if that was going on in 1989, who knows? Who knows what the fuck we have right now, if that's real. But if we are being visited, it's a complete revamping of our position in the universe. If we do realize we're part of a community of intelligent life that's in the universe, and it just takes a while for you to be technologically sophisticated enough where you can communicate and travel to these places, but it eventually happens. And then we just realize that the lights come on, there's a billion eyes out there staring back at us. Whoa, we're all connected in this thing.
I think it would give us a lot of reason to collaborate.
It would give us a lot of reason to collaborate, and like Ronald Reagan was saying, it would force us to recognize that we really are one thing here on planet Earth. It's us together. We're not different countries. It's crazy. We're all just, there's different countries, but we're just human beings. We should all just be like the same thing. We don't need to fight. There's no reason for any of this stuff. All this shit can be worked out. In the future, it should be. I just think technology's got to kind of like help us along in that direction. That's probably exactly what's happening. But it's pretty strange that in the meanwhile, like what we're facing today with these superpowers duking it out and trying to develop technological and military dominance, this would be in the movie at the exact time that alien life is returning on. If you're gonna have a movie like where the aliens come to make sure we don't kill ourselves, now would be arrival time. Now would be the time.
It's like we're all sitting in Plato's cave, duking it out, arguing about what's on the wall.
Right.
When a few people are creeping upstairs, realizing that we have a lot bigger things to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot bigger things to worry about and a lot bigger things to look forward to.
Yep.
And I think the only way we're going to know what the territory is if we get a legitimate map. I think some people have a legitimate map of what we're looking at, and some people don't. But that's where you and I agree that's kind of fucked up. And it's not their position. Shouldn't be able to.
Well, people like yourself bringing attention to this topic, Joe, is huge. You know, I think the momentum that we've seen over the past 3, 4, 5, 8 years since I've been doing this is really changing the conversation. I speak with people every single day. I work this every single day, Joe, 7 days a week. And the amount of people that are changing their tune and coming around with this conversation at all levels of engineering, scientific background, financial resources is absolutely huge. And I think the pressure is going to continue to build. And I think that the opportunity we have here with the new administration is unprecedented. And I think we need to do everything we can do to leverage that to move the conversation to a point of no return.
I think it's possible to do. I really do. And I think that's what the general public wants at this point.
We're doing it.
I think people are really tired of not knowing. If it's all bullshit, tell me it's bullshit. And tell me how you know it's bullshit. And if it's all real, fuck you for hiding it for so long. I even hide this for so long. How do you think this, if you had a guess, how do you think this drone thing gets resolved? I mean, they can't just stay in the sky.
I have this kind of pit in my stomach that this will probably stop in like a week or two, and then we won't learn anything. Now, I don't know if that's how it's going to play out, but that would be consistent with what happened in past years.
Do you think it's possible that they're just testing to see how people would react to drones flying around space?
Due to the lack of coordination in government on this topic, I would assume if that's what they were doing, they would have had a better plan to communicate.
Well, why would they communicate with state and local authorities if they can do it in a way where they get clearance to do it, and, you know, it's a need-to-know thing, and they just, like, have these things fly around just to gauge how the public's perception would be?
Even within the federal government, there seems to be confusion, right? So I'm not even referring to local government and law enforcement. I'm talking about like government agencies that are actively investigating this seem to be out of the loop as well. So if they are trying to trick us, when I mean us, I mean like basically everyone, you know, even within the government, even what people would need to know. I mean, it's so hard for me to rationalize that they would be willing to manipulate 95% of the government in order to run some kind of experiment or social test with unclear value at the end of that chain, right? Like, what exactly are they preparing us for? Is it a broader integration of UAP knowledge into our conversation? That's the only thing I can think that would require such secrecy.
Well, do we have drones that are capable of doing exactly what these things are doing?
I think so. I mean, for the vast majority of cases that I've seen, you know, on social media and whatnot, I think so.
So is this domestic, or these Chinese drones, like the top-of-the-line drones that can do what these things are doing? Are we making those here?
I would have to make the assumption that the government, with the defense community, has built various drones that are capable of doing similar things for deployment overseas. Right? So again, there's not one video, I know we've looked a little bit, for one that exhibits capabilities that gives us a high level of confidence that they're completely unusual. But we're not seeing that necessarily, so I can't jump to that conclusion yet based off of the information that's being presented. But the overall activities of all these objects and the historical consistency with other sightings in this part of the country lend me to still consider that there's anomalous activity that's going on in this area.
Anomalous in terms of what we know we're capable of?
Yes.
Like, what is an example of anomalous that exceeds our capabilities?
Increased signal management, right? Not being able to be detected off our we have very sophisticated radar systems on the eastern seaboard, including in New Jersey. So to have objects that are able to essentially evade those detection mechanisms and appear mysterious and disappear over the ocean or come from the ocean in a way that's untrackable should not be possible. That's why we have the billion-dollar systems. So have we developed these capabilities, and not just radar, but infrared, being able to block infrared, and even being able to detect objects in their proximity and turn their lights off, right? And of course, these aren't magical technologies. We can probably imagine a path there, but it creates a lot of uncertainty about the origin of these objects and their intent, right? Are we trying to evade our own capabilities and cause a mass panic over our own country? Is this a foreign adversary that has had breakthroughs in these capabilities? Not just breakthroughs in these capabilities, but, you know, Iran and China and Russia, for them to be operating off of the eastern seaboard, it's not a small task, right? To like load up a ship, have it be stealthy, and then launch all these drones without a point of origin. That's not a trivial problem for them, right? We're the only countries in the world that has a true global navy, and it would even be difficult for us to do. Civilian drones, you know, I mean, are there civilians operating these? Hundreds of drones without detection, without flaw, without failure, without crashing? Very, very strange that would be the case as well. So again, I look at all these different options and I can see a rationale to say, okay, some of these are not exhibiting capabilities that make me think it came from somewhere else necessarily, but all these kind of facts lined up one after another makes it really anomalous and quite the mistress. But again, I think we can figure this out, Joe. Like, we can get the proper technology there. We can go figure this out. And if the government's not going to do it, I will.
How are you going to do it, though? Like, without the government? Like, what would you do right now? Let's say Trump never calls you. You got to go figure it out. What are you going to do?
I'm going to take RF receivers, from counter drone technologies. I'm going to go out into these hotspots. We're going to be looking for the signals that they may be emitting, and then using mobile platforms, we'll be there to be able to detect the strength of the signals, and we'll essentially follow them, see where they go. And that might include, operating an aircraft. That might include a ship offshore that we can hand off this information to, so they can track them when they go out over the water. It's just a resource problem. It's not a technology problem.
So if there is a ship that's launching them off the coast, what kind of technological capabilities would that ship have to be there undetected, where they don't know where these things are coming from? How far away would it have to be where that's even feasible?
There's a couple paths. One of them, it would have to be perhaps like a submarine launched ship, right? And we have very good detection underwater, especially off our coast.
How many drones could you fit on a submarine?
Well, that's the thing, right? So especially car-sized drones, probably not too many. So we're talking about perhaps a different class of submarine or multiple submarines. They probably don't have the ability to recover these objects.
Would it have to be a submarine, or could it be a giant ship?
I don't think we could have a giant ship off our coast without the Navy or other DoD assets knowing it's there.
So
satellites and everything else.
If these things are launching from the water, they must be launching from something that was under the water.
That would be my hypothesis.
But there's no ship that's been sighted, right?
Correct.
What if there's a ship? It sounds so stupid, but did you ever see that one video where they showed this thing? It was an underwater camera. I think it was focused on an oil rig, and you see something flying through the background.
Yep, I did see that.
Something like 500 knots.
Like a silver flash kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have reports from submarine operators of very fast objects under the water.
Yeah. What the fuck?
USOs, underwater, or unidentified submerged objects. I mean, our planet's mostly covered in water. Our sensing underwater is not as good as in the air. There's less traffic under there. It would be, a logical place to set up shop.
Yeah. I mean, and how much of the ocean is actually discovered and explored, rather? It's like 10% or something crazy.
Yeah, too small.
There's insane deep spots and something could just go and hang out.
Or move around, stay mobile.
Yeah. Well, listen, I hope you get a phone call. I hope you get a phone call and somebody listens to this and says, that sounds like it would be a good thing for everybody if we knew what the hell was going on. If it's possible to talk about it. But again, without you out there telling your story, guys like Commander David Fravor and all these different people that have had these experiences and encountered things and are aware of it and know that it's a real issue. Without real credible voices like yourself, this conversation falls into the hands of silly people like me. like if I'm interested in UFOs, I was interested in Bigfoot for a long time. You know what I mean? Some of it's just fun for me. But when guys like you come out and talk about it, and when the New York Times writes that article in 2017, you get the gimbal video and the go fast video, all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is a phenomenon. This is a real thing. What is it? And why don't we know? And why aren't we being told what we do know?
They don't deny it anymore. I mean, within government, when they communicate, it's clear from the Pentagon to the executive branch to legislative branch that yes, there are objects, we don't know what they are, and they seem to be exhibiting capabilities beyond the state of the art. I mean, we're at a point in the conversation where that seems to be pretty widely accepted at this point.
How hard would it be for people to accept things coming from an underwater civilization that's popping out to check on us?
That might be harder than the whole alien theory.
Right. It would be almost crazier to think that we coexisted with an alien civilization that's under the water that we didn't know about.
Wouldn't we feel foolish?
We would feel so stupid. We thought we're the apex predators. We thought we were running shit. These things are just hovering over our cities. Listen, man, I really hope you get that phone call. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Like I said, I really mean it. If it wasn't for people like you that had the courage to come out and talk about these things, because I know there was a long time where airline pilots, a lot of different people just didn't want to talk about their experiences because it seemed like they were silly and they would be mocked. And it was widely dismissed. And now it's kind of generally acknowledged that something's going on, even from our own government. So thank you. If it wasn't for guys like you, I don't know where this whole conversation would be. So I hope you get a job. Yeah, please do it. Tell everybody the website one more time.
safeaerospace.org.
Okay.
Please sign up, and you can report there. Please sign up as well.
Instagram.
Twitter, uncertain vectors. X.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye, everybody.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
I go to see this dermatologist.
Oh, yeah. Skin.
Yeah, a little excision here because it had been bothering me a bit. And a couple of years ago, I had a cancer scare because I have a birthmark here that I don't really see, and there was a mole there, and I kept, as my hair got a little thinner, I would use a comb, and it caught it one time, and it opened it up, and so I kind of kept picking at it when it became a scab, and I kept picking over the course of like 6 months, and then I went to see this dermatologist for the first time in LA, and I said, yeah, I've got a little bit of I've been trying not to scratch it now, but I'm a bit worried about it. It's been like 6 months of me being an idiot, because it just was really irritable, and so she cut it out and sent it off, and I was at this meeting with a whole bunch of people. She called me up at the end of it and said, listen, I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's cancerous, we've got to cut it out, we're going to get it. And yeah, I just went completely numb at that point and freaked out, because I just thought, what does this mean in the bigger picture? And a lot of friends that have passed from cancer in various kinds over the years, and so it really did freak me out. Anyway, I got cleaned out. So just anything that just looks or feels a little odd, and there was something I've been scratching here a bit, and something here as well, so she just did a little cutting, and no doubt I'll hear from her in a few days when she gets the results.
That's scary because it's in a spot that you don't check. It's covering the hair. You don't know what's going on back there.
Yeah, but it was because of the birthmark, and I just kept thinner hair, so I just kept brushing the comb, and it caught it, and then it scabbed, and then it became itchy, and so I kept scratching it, pulling it off like a kid, as you do, as you just. Anyway, I'm happy to be here in one piece for the moment,
I got one of those comprehensive blood panel screens for cancer recently, and then, wait a while for the results. I'm like, jeez, what if I'm one of those people?
I have
have anything, but
yeah, I go for a proper checkup like twice a year, just on every front, just to make sure I'm going to be around, because I like living.
That's good.
I want to be around for a long time.
that's good.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because how old do you know?
61.
Yeah, I'm 57, and we're getting up there, fella.
I don't like to think about it.
I don't think about it too much.
I'm completely in denial. Absolutely. I refuse, because I just remember seeing my uncles, on my mother's side, what they were like in their 50s alone, when they'd be sitting there with a big belly in front of the TV,
good.
and that does the trick for me.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Walking is one of the best forms of exercise.
Yeah.
If you can get it in every day, you'll be much healthier than if you don't.
Absolutely.
It's not hard to do.
No, it's not.
Listen to a book on tape. Go for a stroll.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's great for the body.
Yeah.
And you don't have to fucking kill yourself.
And I've also, in my time, dealt with a fair amount of depression as well, and anxiety. I get pretty anxious still. Coming here today, I was a bit breathe.
Really?
Yeah. So I went for a nice little power walk around whatever the lake is.
Ladybird?
The one where the bats are.
Yeah. Ladybird.
I had no idea.
Have you
about
seen
the
them
whole-
come out?
No.
Oh, it's cool.
I had no idea. I never even heard of it.
It's really
before.
cool.
The biggest bat population in the world. That's
that
what,
true?
That's what they're saying.
That's true. I think the biggest bat population in the world is in Africa.
I would say, or the Amazon.
Yeah, I think it's a really large population though, and it's cool to see.
They
come out. That's what it looks like when they come out.
Yeah, no, they claim there's signage down there.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, that says it's the biggest bat population in the world.
Maybe it's a specific kind of bat. I don't know.
It's,
Google,
so
where's
is
the big-
It's definitely
is this at sunset that this happens?
Yes. Yeah. Right at nighttime. It's really cool. It's very fun to watch, and you hear them if you go onto the bridge. If you walk on here.
Yeah, I was there today.
Yeah, you can hear them
sleeping.
there.
Okay.
They're just chilling. It's weird, but they're responsible for keeping the mosquito population down.
Is that one?
Yeah, they do a great job. Those little suckers.
Fantastic.
They take care of the mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes.
Yes.
What purpose do they have?
Spreading horrible diseases.
Yeah,
and sucking blood.
that and
making you
aubergines.
cheat.
I don't understand aubergines.
Well, they tried to develop a genetically modified mosquito that was going to attack the other mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But that's horrible type shit. I hear about that. I'm like, okay, what happens then? Like, whenever you start monkeying around
Yeah.
with nature, in that regard,
And so nothing came of it.
I don't know what's been done with that. I don't know. It's like these people are doing these things, and it can affect all of us. And just read about it on the internet. And if it wasn't for the internet, you wouldn't even know they were doing it. Are you sure this is going to be okay in the long run? Like, what's the potential chances for mutations? Like, what happens if they carry a very unique disease that it's
Well,
something?
the scary thing is we have no idea what half of these people are up to.
No, we don't.
COVID being an example.
Yeah, perfect example. Did you see what happened in Australia yesterday? There was a laboratory that lost track of. I put it on Twitter. Lost track of like a bunch of different really serious diseases.
How does that happen?
Someone left the door open.
Yeah.
I went once. Me and my friend Duncan. We went once to the lab in Galveston, Texas. The Center for Disease Control, I believe, is the organization that has this enormous bio lab down in Galveston where they take care of some of the most dangerous and deadly viruses in the world. So they have this incredible filtration system, and everybody's wearing space suits and we're in there going, what are you guys doing? Hundreds of vials of deadly viruses have gone missing from a laboratory, and scientists warn they could be weaponized. So what are 100 vials of hendavirus, 2 vials of hantavirus, 223 vials of lysovirus, all of which are extremely deadly for humans.
And of course, I love it when the media says, something along the lines of the end of that statement. Could be weaponized. So
Yeah.
that's great. Now
Fun.
the freaks are going to go and try and find that stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's, we got into this mess in the first place because, and this has now been confirmed, that they were working on these viruses in this laboratory and it got released. And these viruses had been created through gain-of-function research. So these goofballs are down there working on viruses, making them more infectious to humans. And you would say, well, why are they doing that? Well, surely they're doing that so they can study them and they can cure them. They can make sure that we don't get sick.
Is that the logic?
That's the logic, but they didn't have a cure for it.
This virus is rabies.
Oh, great. lists of viruses responsible for rabies, which is arguably the deadliest encephalitic virus disease known. The prototype rabies lysovirus thought to be able to infect all terrestrial mammals. Yay! What a good thing to just have laying around. I mean, that's like the opening of 28 Days Later, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
There's a new one. Have you seen the trailer for the new one?
There's a new one.
The 28 Years Later.
No, come on.
Yeah. Cillian Murphy's back. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm in. Count me in.
That's the greatest zombie. It's the greatest zombie movie of all time, for sure.
Keep quiet. Do not move from the spot.
Pre-podcast anxiety, and now you're worried about the end of the world.
Jeez.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I didn't know what to expect, but now
I'm terrified of these eggheads messing around with all these things. I really am, because it seems like what we know now is that there wasn't a ton of oversight. They sort of went with the NIH funds the Eco Health Alliance. The Eco Health Alliance funds the Wuhan lab, which has had many safety violations, including I think a year before the leak, and then it gets out, and then they all lie, and then they all trade emails back and forth when they're talking about the lie, and they go in front of Congress and they lie, and now they're talking about giving Fauci a mass pardon, a preemptive pardon, so he doesn't get charged.
That's crazy.
It's a whole thing. And then there's another one today where the Biden administration is keeping the emergency classification of COVID to 2029 so that they can avoid being attacked for the Emergency Use Authorization Act. It's so creepy stuff because there's money. It's all money, right? There's money involved in this. There's these people that are working on viruses. Well, the way to get funding is you have to work on viruses. So whether or not I don't think they're evil people, but I think these people, this is what they studied in college. This is what they went to university for. And now they're studying it. And what's the best way to study it? You actually have to have funding. You have to have a lab. And you start doing it. So who do you do it for? Well, you do it for the Defense Department, because they want to work on weaponizing viruses. This is a real thing. This is one of
the scariest things.
It's fucking terrifying. I did a television show once where we talked to this guy from Russia and from former Soviet Union, where he was talking about how they had literally giant vats of anthrax. They had enough anthrax to literally kill every fucking human being in America, and that they were working on viruses and all these deadly diseases.
To be honest with you, I'm quite surprised we're still here.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking
with what's already happened and what the potentials are. It's staggering.
Well, if you think about all the things that we've gone through, we just barely missed a total disaster. The Cuban Missile Crisis, and then there was the one time where there was they thought that the United States had launched a missile at Russia, and they were very close to responding. It was just a glitch, and one guy, just one clear-headed person, decided not to launch. this is in the 60s.
Yeah,
right? It's so terrifying.
Yeah, we're so close all the
Yeah.
time, really. That's why one should just try and have a happy life wherever you can. That's for sure.
The problem with that is if you don't speak up, if no one reacted to any of this COVID-19 stuff,
Yeah.
if no one reacted to the Orwellian censorship complex that was established to try to silence people that were critical of the narrative that they were pushing,
Sure.
we would all be fucked. You kind of have to pay attention now, unfortunately. I don't want to.
No, I agree.
I want to just have fun with my life. Be with my family, my friends.
No, of course.
Enjoy myself.
Of course.
We all do.
No, it's good to be aware. No question about that.
But there's also this part of me that goes, yeah, but this is what the universe provides you with. The universe provides you with this very unique balance of good and evil. And the evil exists to appreciate the good and to motivate the good.
No question.
There's always going to be. It just seems like there's always going to, until we reach some enlightenment. Jesus comes back to the aliens' land.
It's that thing called balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to do the balancing act as best as you can.
Yeah. What do you do? Like, what's your balancing routine? Like, if you feel like you're getting a little sideways.
I hate to say it, but it's back to getting out into the fresh air and walking.
Yeah.
I mean, that really does, or even photography, just being. Actually, my number one go-to is I'm a biker. I've been out of motorcycles since I was like in my early teens. So to really blow the cobwebs out, it's kind of getting on the bike and just riding somewhere I've never been before. I just look at a map and go, "Oh, that's interesting," and I just go. And
That looks like so fun if I was bulletproof made out of metal.
have you
I'm scared of motorcycles.
really? Well, it's the other people, as they
That's
say.
exactly right. Yeah.
But you have to. I believe you have to have a heightened awareness to be a biker and stuff.
Oh, also. Do you have a loud bike so people can hear it at least?
Yeah, I've had a few loud ones in
Like a Harley?
I used to have Harley. At the moment, I ride a Triumph, a couple of Triumphs.
Oh, nice.
One that looks like an old school, but actually works. And then I thought I was never going to be one of those guys that ever kind of rode one of those 50s, the sort of adventure bikes. You know,
like saddles with the boxes.
Kind of. Yeah, but the relative half fairing. But I when I go for a ride and these random rides, you know, I could be gone up in the mountains with no signal for 3.5, 4 hours, and that there has been an occasion several in the past where without signal the bike has had problems, and it gets pretty scary when you're in the wilderness and you've got no backup plan. I had an oil leak with a brand new bike and no signal, and I was literally rolling down any hill I could just to survive, make it to whatever little village I could find in the middle of nowhere.
Where were you?
In France.
Oh, wow.
So I tend to go up in the wilds back there. And, so I decided also my backside after 3.5 hours on one of the older style bikes is pretty painful. So I just had to look at one of the Triumph adventure bikes. And,
What do they look like? Can you tell us about it? Is that it?
So that's what my old bike looks like. That's actually my old bike with my old friend riding it. And that's the one where your ass kills after a couple of hours. Those are the kind of views I get. Those are in the middle of nowhere.
Are these your photographs?
Yeah. These are just quickies on my phone. Just places I find myself in the middle of nowhere. I mean, stunning places. And they're not far from where I am on the coast. And they're kind of on the border with Italy. So it's pretty unique stuff.
Where do you live?
I officially live in Monaco.
Oh wow! I was just there.
Yeah,
I
you
was just
were?
there last summer. Yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Okay, well
It's really beautiful.
it's not a bad place
It's
to
in a
be.
weird spot.
It's a weird
It's like,
spot.
what's going on here?
Listen,
Why is everybody stacked up in apartments
It's
right here?
very transient. You know,
Yeah.
people come and go for whatever reason that they do, and I mean, most people like myself, you know, we have this kind of summer house getaway, so you can go breathe on the weekends.
Isn't it kind of a tax sheltery place
Yeah.
too?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
A lot of real rich folks go there to
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
hoard their cash.
Sure. But there's a few new places around the world that offer that kind of possibility.
Oh really? Like
Yeah.
where else?
Well, Dubai's offering certain incentives now. Portugal, certain incentives.
Yeah, Dubai has like no income tax, right?
I've never been there personally.
Is that the fact?
I think it is. I'm not 100% sure.
I have a friend who just moved to Dubai. He's American and he's a filmmaker, and he says, "I feel so safe."
Yeah, that's one element of
There's
it.
no crime.
As long as you're not doing
He said you could leave a
bad.
Rolex on the ground, and
Oh, yeah.
someone will pick it up and turn it into the place.
Yeah, I'm sure.
UAE does not levy income tax on an individual. However, it levies a 5% value-added tax on the purchase of goods and services. That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Levied at each stage of the supply chain and ultimately borne to the end consumer. Fairly reasonable.
Yeah. So, although it's never inspired me so far.
No.
Anyway.
No. Well, there's a lot of like wild restrictions over there.
Oh yeah, and I like a bit of character with where I am.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the pleasures I find is number one, I'm a biker, so I get to ride around a lot. I'm not really a beach guy. After 20 minutes, I start twitching. I need to do something. It's true. But I'm also a foodie as well. So, you know, Monaco's half an hour away from Italy. And there's actually a big crossover in the restaurants between French and Italian food. And then you have places like the island of Corsica, which is French now. It's been through the mill a few times. It was English at one point, it was Italian at one point. It's, I think, a few other nations too. But I could see it from where I was. You can actually see the outline of Corsica from the south of France, from Monaco in some locations. And I'd seen it for 25, 30 years and had never been. And a couple of years ago I decided with a friend to hop in. I've got the mini Kamera, and that's mine to run around. And decided to get the ferry, which is about 6 hours across, and drive, you know, with no bookings, no nothing, and just see if there was a hotel available. And drove around the whole island in 10 days. And it was one of the most magical places I've ever been to. It's like 10 countries on one island. The scenery is mind-blowing. And the south of it is very much like the Caribbean, crystal clear waters. The food, again, is this combination of the best of Italian, the best of French, and just the freshest of the freshest of the fresh. And I've only been down there about 2 or 3 times because this was only a few years ago, and I couldn't believe that. And here's the other thing. Okay, the ferry's 6 hours, but you can get what they call a vomit comet. It's like a very short flight, you know. You could be there in the south of Corsica from Nice in 45 minutes, and it's a different world. It's an entirely stunning, gorgeous, different world. Again, scenery unlike I've ever seen before, and for such a small island. Oh yeah. I mean, it's just insanely beautiful. And that's Bonifacio. They're renowned for being. They can be a bit of tough nuts.
In what way?
If they don't like you, if you piss them off, excuse my French, they'll blow up your house. I mean, there was a report a couple of years ago that this guy's house that he was causing some trouble. They didn't want him around. His house is on fire. I'm serious.
Well, I guess if you live in a a small place like that that's really amazing, you're probably very protective of someone coming along and ruining
They're
it.
exactly like that. I mean, if you don't,
I get that.
if you don't respect them,
Yeah, I
you
get
know,
that.
yeah, no,
Well, whenever people say, like, if you go to France, they're very rude.
I get it.
I've gone to France. I didn't think they were rude, you know, but I get how there's some Americans, like, hopping right off the cruise ship that are just fat and stupid.
There's just, you know, I think if you're not prepared to be warm and friendly
Right.
on the approach and treat them with the respect that they deserve in their own country.
Treat like you're a visitor.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
You're
you
thankful
know,
to
don't
be there.
order them around.
Yes.
Don't tell them what to do. And
Yeah.
you know, even though, you know, they think it's quite funny that you try and speak their language. I can understand French pretty well and Italian and a few other things, but you know, God help me if I try and speak it, because they don't laugh at you, but they'll speak back to you in English. You know,
Right.
it's
That's the wonderful thing about English. Is
but at
so
least
many-
make the effort, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
You know,
Show them that you're
show them
trying.
that you're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Say merci.
they kind of go, yeah.
Say that.
Just thank you
Yeah.
alone. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, don't just order them around, which I've seen many people do, and it's a bit shocking.
Grazie mille. Yeah, you gotta be able to say a few things.
Yeah,
Just let them know that
simple.
you're trying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I go to Italy. Well, I try to go to Italy every year. Me and my family, we go there every year. And I love it. It's just so
Where do you
instantaneous.
head?
My favorite place is Ravello.
Where is that?
Ravello's on the Amalfi Coast.
Okay.
It's just so beautiful. But I've liked Rome too. It's a little touristy. The problem with Rome is it's overcrowded. There's a lot of touristy shit going
Yeah,
on.
Rome is not my favourite. The reason why it's so appealing to me is because my first stepfather was Italian, Roberto Bassanini, and he was very Italian, and he was the black sheep of the family. He was the naughty boy, and he was more like an older brother to me, married to mum after dad, and his family were involved in kind of hotels and restaurants from also London in the heyday of Italian restaurants. It was like the 70s. And so they had a few small hotels in different areas, and so whenever I was in school in London, or England at that time, we'd take these little trips to Cortina, above Milan. There's a little town called Foggia that I used to go, unknown by most tourists, locals, to go skiing in the winter, or Pesaro, which was on the east coast, for summer holidays. So I spent a lot of time there growing up from the age of 5, 6, 7. She was only with him for about 3 or 4 years, but we stayed in touch. I used to go and visit him all the time because he was a laugh. Of course, sadly his lifestyle killed him, with a couple of heart attacks at the end of everything.
That's usually how it goes when you have a good time.
Yeah, he was having too much of a good time, I'm afraid. But I miss him dearly. He certainly was, one of those characters that you admired.
When I go to Italy, it feels like almost immediately like a decrease in blood pressure.
Yes.
Like almost immediately.
Oh yeah.
It's like the vibe
Yeah.
of the people, the way they live. It's just relax.
They can be a bit stressed sometimes, though, with the shouting at each other and
Yeah, but even then, it doesn't seem like shouting. Like American shouting leads to violence.
Yes, this is true.
I hear
This is true.
American shouting like, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, agreed.
I hear Italian shouting like, what happened? Did someone in the kitchen fuck up? Like, what went wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound pompous, but it does sound pompous. That if I have friends come over from the States or London, I'll say, do you fancy getting some Italian tonight? And we'll get in the car and we'll be on the freeway or the motorway over there. And they'll be saying, "Where the F are we going?" I'm going for Italian. And there's a little town about an hour away from Monaco, tiny little medieval town called where I'll just go and get the best spaghetti vongole on the planet, made by a grandmother who's in a kitchen, 10 by 10 at the best of times, with all, and it's down on the water, and it's just, it's Italy for me, if you're not in the mountains, if you're by the sea, at its best. And they all get dressed up at sunset. They all love to walk the promenade, and in their finest attire, and sit there and watch the world go by and drink their coffee and chat. And because I lived in LA for, I think it was about 8 years, I went back. The story of me going back actually was that I flew back to London to see a premiere of a film called Backbeat. It's about the early Beatles. I didn't know anything about it, but I had an invite, so I went to see it. And I met this guy who said, who's a line producer, film producer, and he said, have you been to Monaco before? I said, never even thought about it really. And he said, do you like Grand Prix? I said, not really a Grand Prix kind of guy. He said, well, listen, if you got nothing to do this weekend after we saw the film, the premiere, why don't you come down? I've got an apartment, I've got an extra room, I know the town inside out, and I was thinking, what am I going to do? Go back to LA and be numb again? And so I literally went down to Monaco the next day, and he just showed me around, and we went to this very famous restaurant, a famous corner called the Raskas corner on the Grand Prix circuit. And it's literally where you're having a prawn cocktail, and there's a car coming at you at about 180 miles an hour with just a chicken wire fence in front of your face. You're going,
how far away?
Shit. I mean, directly in front of you. I mean, the car could be...
So this is it right here?
Yeah, that's not the Raskas corner, that's the Lowe's corner. Raskas corner is very, very famous little spot. There it is, yeah, that's it. So you'd be behind the chicken wire fence. This is a kind of modern version of it, but that's even more protection than it used to have. And you'd have a bit of lunch there, and they would, and that was the hot spot in Monaco for years and years. There were 3 brothers that owned it, real troublemakers, and it was a blast. But so you had the car, so I went, all right, I'm into this, and so I spent the summer down there, and I used to have a little bungalow on Mulholland and Coldwater, and I had a caretaker there because I had a dog at the time, and I just said, hi Tim, pack it up, sell the house, I'm not coming back. And I didn't go back.
Did you take your dog?
The dog actually died before I so it was getting on. But yes,
Fuck it.
yeah, that was it. Yeah, I just put everything in storage. I rented this kind of what could be seen as a Miami Vice kind of apartment on the 30th floor. It just had a mirrored wall with no furniture, and so I bought a couch off of the floor of a store called Habitat because it would take like 6 weeks to order. I had nothing, so I bought a couch, and I bought a TV, even though there was no English TV back then. This is 30 years ago. I just had a trunk to put the TV on. And occasionally you get American movies. And a mattress on the floor, and I lived like that for 10 years. I just was really stupid.
Did you enjoy it?
It was just stupid.
Did you enjoy it?
I've had 3 major, well no, 4, it's like the Spanish Inquisition, 4 major incidents. Now, I mean, London back in the day used to be a great place to party and enjoy. And then I moved to New York for a few years, early in my career, in my early 20s. 8 ago. I almost died there with the partying that went on at the clubs back in the heyday then, and it was celebrity central, you know, with the likes of at the Limelight with Alice Cooper and a few other fruitcakes. And then I really did feel like I was, you know, I could have
Gone off the rails.
Yeah, easily. I was borderline. I enjoyed it too much. And then I went out to LA, had a convertible, and we just drove across Mulholland down to Malibu, and I went, "Fuck, this is gorgeous. What the hell am I doing back?" So I moved to LA. I packed up and moved, and I did exactly the same thing. I found a place to live, and I just, you know, was there until situated.
I think I met you in LA.
Are you serious?
1993.
That's a good possibility. That would have been mid to end of my term out there.
I was doing something for MTV, and you were one of the first celebrities that I met. I met Rico Suave and a couple other
Shut
people.
the front door. Yes, okay, yeah, because
Slid upp här.
yeah, because I was early in on the MTV stuff. The label I was with was pushing whatever, you know, throw me on whatever was available.
I was with this woman who was an executive at MTV, and she was taking me around and showing me LA. You know, I'd never been to LA before. And, I'd been once for a martial arts competition when I was young. Here was, and she took me to this nightclub, and you were at the front door about to get in. And I was like, holy shit,
Do
that's
you remember
Julian
which one it
Lennon.
was?
No, I don't. I remember very little about it.
Was I with some fruitcakes? I'm sure I was.
I don't remember. I just remember like, oh, that's a famous guy. That's John Lennon's son. Crazy. Because, you know, I was coming from New York.
Of course.
25, 26 years old. I didn't know anything. And I was like, this is so strange. It was just strange to me to be in these like Hollywood parties with this MTV executive who's taking me around showing me all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
She was just kind of like introduce you, like, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
This is what everybody does. They go out to the clubs, and it's just...
Yeah, the scary thing about LA was that you thought it was all over by 2 o'clock, you know, because they literally pull your drinks at 1:30.
Mm-hmm.
But then they go to someone's house.
Right.
And they continue till dawn, you know.
Yeah.
So that was dangerous too.
Yeah.
So I was happy that I got away from that.
Fortunately, I avoided all that.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've
there was some fun to be had, no question about it. But
I'm sure.
a lot of it was kind of dark too.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, that's when you start adding cocaine to human beings, you get darkness.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of Jack Daniels too.
They go hand in hand.
Yes.
Yeah, I avoided all that. Luckily, when I moved to LA, I'm one of those people that's like,
You were out
see
there.
where that's
How
going.
long were you out there?
I guess 30. Well, no, not quite 30 years. 26 years, because I've been here for
That's
4.
a stretch.
Yeah,
Okay.
most of my life, the most I've ever lived anywhere. I lived there. But I only went to parties like a handful, very small handful of times. It was like I was dragged to.
Yeah.
You know, like the last one I was dragged to was Naomi Campbell's birthday party, which was
I'm sure that was.
it was insane.
Yeah.
It was with Dave Chappelle. So Dave and I
Okay.
were at the Comedy Store, and you know, Dave knows it.
Yes.
He's like,
yeah.
hey man, there's a party up in the hills. You want to go? And I was like, I don't want to go to any fucking parties.
Yeah.
He's like, come on, man, I want to go alone. So I said, okay. So me and Dave, we drove all the way up there. It was like a scene in a movie.
Yeah.
Because like, here's me and my super famous friend. We're in my Porsche. We're in my race car, the GT3. So we're driving up in the hills, and then we have to stop at this place, and then you have to get on a shuttle, and then get to the house, and then you get on an elevator, an outside elevator that takes you from the main house to the party house.
Right.
So they had a party house on the top of this hill. So we're up in this elevator with Demi Moore, which is weird as it is.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, hi. You know, it's fucking weird. Hi, famous lady.
Yeah.
And then we get to the top of this hill, and it's just everybody famous. It's Lenny Kravitz and all these different people.
Yeah.
And so Naomi Campbell, there's a photograph of her on the side of the hill that's literally 50 feet tall. It's an enormous naked photograph of her.
Of course.
Because it's her birthday.
Well, of course.
She's unbelievably beautiful still. Those old shoes. I don't know how old she is, but she looks sensational. So we get to the top of this place. We're hanging out. It's very weird. It's very weird. And then Dave pulls me aside. He goes, man, I wouldn't want to be this famous. I go, hey man, you're the most famous motherfucker here. He goes, really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because we were a little high. He goes, really? I go, 100%. You're
Yeah.
the most famous person
For
here.
sure.
This is, we're just laughing. Like, this is so crazy. And then we got out of there and went right back to the Comedy Store. I'm like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah.
It's just too strange.
The scenes are pretty weird out there. That's for sure.
Well, it's also these celebrities. They can't hang out with regular people. I think they feel too weird. So I think they
Yeah.
try to get together.
Yeah.
And so we were in like
That's that absolutely. You're spot on.
a vampire gang
Yes.
of famous people.
You are absolutely spot on.
They called it like, he said it was like an eyes wide shut party. Like, that's what it feels like. It
Yeah,
feels like you're in a
I mean,
secret fraternity.
No, there's a few that I've left that I feel very uncomfortable being around.
Like
That's
what?
for sure. I couldn't tell you exactly where it went, but certainly some weird ones up in there. I just want to
Yeah.
just doesn't feel.
There's something about the act of going up into the hills. Like you're going to the
Well,
lair, the dragons lair.
Well, one of the things was the fact that, I mean, now you've got Ubers all over the place. But, you know, back in my day, there was no taxis around either. So you'd get trapped.
Ooh.
And then you'd figure, well, I'm here anyway. You know,
Yeah. Can't
might
get
as well
out.
have another drink. And that's what would happen more often. And, yeah, so it's kind of better not to.
Definitely better not to, but maybe go a couple times.
Yeah,
So you
go and
realize
check it out. Yeah,
don't
go
wanna
and
do
go and
that.
see what that's all about. Yeah,
Yeah. Many people have lost
it's
their
messy
time.
though. Oh yeah,
They've lost their time to those places.
it's very messy.
It becomes a part of your life and your lifestyle. It's deeply unhealthy, both. It's physically unhealthy, but it's also like spiritually unhealthy.
Yeah,
It's a weird way to spend your time.
been there, done that. Thank you very much.
You look fine. You got
Yeah.
through it.
No, I did get through it.
But don't you think it's good to just know, though?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not the way to do
No,
it.
I think if you don't know, you can't talk about it. You can't understand
Right.
that weird journey that you go through.
Yeah.
I think you have to do certain things sometimes just to realize what it's all about.
Well, LA
It's
is
that balance thing. It's the light, and the
Yeah.
dark, you know.
LA's so particularly odd too because everyone's chasing very specific goal of notoriety. Like, it's success, but success is, it's quantified by notoriety. Like, the more famous you are, the more popular, the bigger your song
even
is.
now, you know, all you've got to have is a bloody iPhone,
Yeah.
whatever,
TikTok. Yeah.
an account, and that's
Yeah.
it. I mean,
Very strange.
yeah, really, really odd.
Yeah.
I can't quite get to grips with all of that, to be honest with you.
I don't think anyone can. And I think it's essentially being captured by a form of technology that has leveraged our desire for this attention, our desire for this notoriety. And
But it's also being known for nothing.
right.
You know, that's the scary thing.
Yes.
And having this element of what seems to be the latest generation of this privilege,
Right.
you know,
Right.
where they believe that, everything is owed to them.
Right.
And entitled, yeah.
Yeah.
And I find that shocking, you know.
Well, that comes along with the quest, right? If the quest is just notoriety, like if you're an artist and you happen to get famous because everybody loves your music or loves your photography or
Yeah.
loves your books or whatever it is, that's a different sort of a relationship because people love you for what you've made, what you produce.
Yeah, there's a purpose to it.
Yeah, and I love people like that because I'm fascinated by people that are able to create things that resonate with everybody or resonate with an enormous amount of people. It's fascinating to be around them and to kind of just, you know, I know a lot of famous people now, and I know some of them are just fantastic people.
Yeah.
They're just really interesting people.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
have-
Well, you have very interesting people on your show, that's for sure. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
intrigued me, you know, from, you know, Professor Brian Cox, you know,
Love that
I'm
guy.
an absolute fan of. I had
He's
the pleasure of
amazing.
meeting him.
Such a nice guy, too.
Lovely guy, mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing.
Too much information for my good.
It's so funny. I was talking about him with a friend of mine the other day, and my friend wasn't aware of him, and I had just done a podcast with him, and so and I'd gone to the club from the podcast. I'm like, oh my god, I had the greatest podcast. This guy blew my mind.
Yeah.
I've had him on several times, and he's always amazing. And my friend looks at the photo. He goes, "What does it look like?" I pull up. He's like, "Is that guy in a fucking band or something?" I go, "Yeah, he was in a band."
That's right.
He's like, "No way."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's in a successful band.
Yeah.
He's an actual brilliant scientist who was in a successful band.
Yeah, mind-boggling. I mean,
Because he looks like a rock star.
he does. He's not changed his look since the beginning.
And he's such a great science communicator.
Well, that's the thing. See, I love science, but I get lost in it sometimes.
Mhm.
But he is probably the closest I'll ever get to really trying to have an insight into what it's all about. You know,
Well,
as best as he can describe it.
He's really good at explaining to people that don't have the proper understanding of all the terminology and all the ways they discover it. He can lay it out for the layperson.
Yeah, which is why he's so fascinating. Which is why everybody should know it.
Yeah. His show is wonderful too. Have you ever seen his show? They do a live
No, I have not.
enormous screens, and they show you like history of the universe and stellar nurseries and all this wild stuff. It's really incredible stuff.
No, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate in that way that I've had the chance to talk to so many extraordinary people, and it's great. But it makes talking to boring people almost painful. Like you're just holding your breath.
Well, I don't know which category I'm in.
You're
so.
not in the boring kind. No.
Well, I can be. I think we all can be, I guess, at some stage. But
Well, just the fact that you're willing to do what you've done is to take these trips and just move to a place. I think that's great. I think people need more of that in their life. I think you could see the world from your neighborhood, from where you live, and get a really distorted sense of this experience, this very unique experience of these bizarre thinking creatures interacting with each other on this isolated planet that's hurling through the universe.
yeah.
And you could think that you kind of understand the experience until you go to other places.
Well, I see you're a big fan of Bourdain as well.
Yeah.
And I loved his show, so I still watch them all the time. Because it's just what he discovered and how he entrenched himself with the people that he went to meet and the conversations and the food and just that's my cup of tea right there.
Yeah.
I think how can we not want to do that, learn and love that experience, you know.
Well, he had such a like infectious passion for different cultures and their food and the art of food. And, like, he was the first guy that made me consider that cooking is actually an art form. Like, I kind of knew it, but I didn't think of it. I kind of just said, "Oh, delicious food, awesome. Well, this guy's a really great chef, awesome."
Yeah.
And then I watched his first show, No Reservations. Like, oh, okay, duh, it's art. It's art that you eat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's why they're all weird and they all have tattoos and fucking weird earrings.
Yeah.
Okay, they're artists. Okay, that makes so much sense. And I was like, oh, you ignorant fuck. You would never put it in that category for something. I just like decided, no, that's just food. But no, there's an art to food.
It's another level.
Yeah, like the place you were talking about, linguine with clams. Linguine vongole, which is my favorite dish of all time.
Spaghetti vongole.
Oh, when it's done
you know,
right.
I promise that if you ever come back to Monty, as we call it, I'll drive you.
Oh, I'll go.
We'll go for spaghetti vongole and hope the dear grandmother's still alive.
It also makes me angry because when I eat pasta, pizza over in Italy, I don't feel like shit. And then I come to America and I eat the same supposed things, and I feel
I can eat a friggin' salad here and put on weight. I don't know what's going on. I'm serious.
yeah, it's seed oils. Seed oils in the salad dressing, sugar.
Yep, all of that. All of that. I agree. I live. It's a much healthier lifestyle, without question.
Oh yeah, the
Every
food
time.
hasn't been violated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
It's generally organic.
You can eat pizza every day and pasta every day.
Yeah.
And also, I think the other real big thing here is the portion control as well.
Yeah, we're gluttons.
I mean, you can have one plate full of food here and serve 4 people in Europe.
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. I think I was poor when I was young, and I think because of that, I'm even more of a glutton.
Yeah.
Because I just want more food.
Right.
I want all the food.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I work out a lot, so I'm always hungry.
Yeah.
So that I have a real
That's a different thing,
overeating.
though.
But
You-
yeah, I mean, the only thing that keeps me from being fat is my exercise routine and discipline. 'Cause
Yeah.
if I was just giving in to my whims, I'd be 500 pounds.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I just love food.
Yeah.
It's it's especially when
Food
you go
is
to a different
fab.
culture.
No, of course.
You know, if you go to somewhere like you can go to Thailand and eat authentic Thai food in Thailand, it's like, oh man,
Oh, yeah.
there's something special.
And it's great when you got friends who have that same appreciation that, while you're eating lunch, you're talking about dinner.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how excited you are about food.
And it's also, it just realigns your priorities. Like, what really are you trying to get out of life? You're trying to get out of life memorable experiences with people you care about. Those are like the best moments in life.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I long for that,
Yes.
because also I go on these very long working time periods, and I don't get to see a lot of friends quite often, And so I really try and work out, look at my schedule these days and go, I'm taking some time out here for a couple of days. I want to see my friends, I want to say hello, I want to share some time and stories and food with them. So it's become a key thing to have that included in running around like a headless chicken all the time,
Is that what inspired your photography? Because this book is really excellent. Your photography is great.
Thank you. It was a dear friend, Timothy White, who's a celebrity photographer, and he'd done my second and third album, and we were doing a charity single called Lucy, which was about Lucy Voden, who's the Lucy in the Sky with Diamond, who I grew up with, who died from lupus. And then I became the lupus, the ambassador for the Lupus Foundation of America. And we were doing a single to raise money called Lucy, and we were doing with another great artist called James Scott Cook, and we were doing a photo shoot, and he'd sent me some pictures, and I started screwing around with his pictures, and he said to me, and you actually don't do that with another photographer's work. He said, what the fuck are you doing with my pictures? He said, where did you learn how to do this? I said, well, I didn't. I just, I'm intuitively inspired to play around with stuff. You know, I'm still a big kid, so. And he said, well, do you have other photos? Do you actually have photos yourself that you've taken and worked on? I thought, well, bits and bobs, but nothing. So he and I sat down and looked through all the photos